قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad. Our first question for tonight is from Sarah. She says, are we allowed to use beer shampoos that are on the market nowadays? This question has to be dissected in order to answer it. First of all, beer used externally and whether this is halal or haram. First of all, wine, intoxicants in general are different from alcohol. Alcohol is a separate substance. Though it causes intoxication, but it has no ruling for itself to being intoxicant because it's a substance. And most likely if someone drinks pure alcohol, that he would harm himself if not die. So alcohol itself is not our topic. Our topic is intoxicants, whether it is wine, red or white, whether it is whiskey, whether it is any other intoxicant. Is it najis or not? Is it physically impure or not? Because this would affect a number of other things. So if I apply it externally, do I have to wash it before praying or not? So if it is pure alcohol and I have it in a swap and I clean my wound to pray, do I have to wash it? The answer is no. So some say, okay, because this is not wine. I understand. This is alcohol. What about physical alcohol? That is wine. If someone pours a glass of wine on my trousers, or a drop of vodka falls accidentally from the passenger sitting next to me on an international flight, which I have no control over, and turbulence, and it falls on me, can I pray? It's an issue of dispute. And the most authentic opinion is that intoxicants are not physically impure, but rather spiritually. And there are evidences proving that. Among them is that the Prophet ﷺ ordered the companions to spill out their savings and whatever they had stored of wine when the prohibition was revealed to him, and the rivers of wine was pouring in the streets of Medina, and no one considered walking on that to be impure and would affect their prayer in the masjid, among other evidences. So it is not physically impure. And this is why when we have a bottle of perfume that has alcohol in, and you apply it on yourself and your body, you go to pray with that. There's no problem in that. So using it externally is okay if there's a need to it, as in the case of perfume. Going back to beer. Not all beer is haram. So we have beer that is prohibited, and they have beer that is halal. How do we judge? We do that through the end result. If we have a beer that is called non-alcoholic and it has 0.3 or 0.5% alcohol in it, doctors and professionals say that if you consume a six-pack, it would not intoxicate you. Hence, it is halal. Because the Prophet gave us the parameters, alayhi salatu wasalam, of what is halal and what is haram. When he said in an authentic hadith, whatever intoxicates in large quantities, then little of it is haram. So if someone drinks a glass of champagne and he's not intoxicated, he does not have the right to say, it's halal for me. I'm just a social drinker. They were throwing a toast, so I just drank half a glass. And it did not intoxicate me. Said, Akhi, if you drank, or if you were to drink a large quantities of it, like 5 or 6 glasses, would you become intoxicated? He said, definitely, I'd become wasted. In this case, a drop of it, one single drop, is haram for you. This is the measurement tool that the Prophet gave us, alayhi salatu wasalam. So we have to look at the shampoo, the beer itself. If it's not intoxicating and it's added to shampoo, there's no problem using it. Okay, Sheikh, what about if it is intoxicating? But what if it's a Miller or a Budweiser, full throttle, as they say, the real deal? It's definitely haram to consume. What about if it's mixed with shampoo? Using it externally in your hair is permissible, though it is najis. But if you use it externally, like perfume, and you wash it, then it's okay. The trick is not here. The trick is in buying it. So when you buy shampoo that is alcoholic beer based, then you are buying alcohol, you're buying wine, you're buying intoxication. And the Prophet ﷺ cursed in wine 10. Among them is the one who buys it. So those who buy it, who sell it, who manufacture it, who grow the grapes or the plants used for it, who carry it, who it is carried to, etc. So many people are cursed when it comes to wine, which is the general terminology for intoxicants. Therefore, buying it is totally prohibited. Using it is something that is abhorred, is not recommended for a Muslim, but at the end of the day, it's not haram, because one is using it externally and not consuming it. But buying it is totally prohibited, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Sumayya says, what is the awrah of women in front of other women that needs to be covered? This is an issue of dispute, and the reason of that, or behind that, is that we do not have a clear-cut evidence from the Quran and Sunnah to prove it. But we have general evidences. And this is where the scholar has an upper hand over laymen and normal people, because his understanding is far greater than their understanding. His knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah and the opinion of the Salaf is way far greater than others. So he has the ability to come up with verdicts where the layman would say, where did you get this from? And to explain that to him, he would probably need ages. It's like a goldsmith. When you go to a jeweler's shop and you give him a watch, and he looks at it, or you give him a bracelet and he checks it out and he tells you that this is made of gold 18 karat, or this is fake. How did you know that? He said, this is my job. This is my experience that I'm implementing after so many years. Most people say, I don't buy it. I don't believe you. When you take a car to a mechanic and he just listens to the sound of the engine and he says that you need to do this and that and your car will be fine. And you say, you did not plug it into any computers, or you did not check what's under the hood. He said, no, I don't need to. The symptoms you told me, and by the sound of the engine, I can tell. This is collected through so many years of experience, in addition to the knowledge. So the scholars came up with what is halal and permissible, and what is haram when it comes to women showing other women. If you go to the books of fiqh, you would find things that are outrageous. Yani, there are opinions that states that the awrah of a woman in front of another woman is from the navel to the knees. What? Do you mean that if a woman sits topless in front of another woman, this is okay? Yeah, this is okay. Some books of fiqh say this. And if you want to justify this, they would go and say that they need to breastfeed and they mix with other women and sometimes they may expose this because of feeding the children, blah, blah, blah. But how do you go further and expand it to this much? And how do you open it to the public so that women can wear nude dresses in front of one another, as we see in weddings and gatherings? This is totally prohibited. So the most authentic opinion is that what is normal among women and their non-mahram men to show is permissible. And scholars said that what women wear of their jewelry is halal to expose. So for example, the earrings means that the ear, the neck, the hair can be exposed to other women and to mahram men. The neck, not down to the cleavage, but the neck and part of the chest is okay, because usually women wear necklaces. The arms from the shoulder down is okay, because usually women wear a certain type of a bracelet up their biceps. This is okay, but the shoulder itself here is not permissible to be shown, like some dresses where the upper shoulder and the arms are exposed. The back itself, a little bit under the neck is okay, but to have the back open till the back of the back, the end of your back, this is not permissible. The legs are okay to the middle of them. So, and some say to below the knee, but not the knee and what is above it, because women wear anklets, etc. So in short, this is what a woman can wear, providing it is not tight, exposing her curves and her bone structure, and providing it is not see-through, as so many women do, unfortunately nowadays, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Sania says, I heard we should make dua in sujood and before salam. So do I need to recite Fatiha and Darood in the beginning and the end? If I don't, then my dua won't be accepted. Sania's question about making dua in sujood and before salam. First of all, generally speaking, I'm sitting in my room, I'm not doing anything, all of a sudden I want to make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, to guide my children to abide by Islam and guide my daughters to abide by hijab. What to do? There are etiquettes. Now this is a general dua. The etiquette is to raise my hands and to praise Allah Azza wa Jal, Allahumma lakal hamdu hamdan kathiran tayyiban mubarakan fi, and to offer salutation, what is known as darud in Urdu. So I say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. Because the Prophet said, alayhi salatu salam, dua is blocked between heaven and the earth until you offer salutation upon me. So we have to offer salutation upon the Prophet alayhi salatu salam. And after that I would say, oh Allah, guide my children to abide by Islam. Oh Allah, guide my daughters to abide by the hijab. And go on. This is the etiquette of dua. Now when I am in sujood, the Prophet told us that when you're sujood, you are as close as you can be to Allah Azza wa Jal. So make dua. And he did not tell us praise Allah Azza wa Jal or offer salutation upon the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So we go directly without doing that. And also before salam, after the salutation in the last rak'ah, the Prophet says, as-salam, choose whatever dua you wish. So praising Allah Azza wa Jal is not part of the sunnah here. And offering the salutation is not needed because I have just done this a couple of seconds ago. Now, Fatiha is not included at all. She says, Sania, do I need to recite the Fatiha? Fatiha is never recited when making dua, whether generally speaking or when you are in sujood. Not only that, it is prohibited to be recited in sujood. It is prohibited to be recited before the salam, because this is an innovation. And in the sujood, it is prohibited to recite the Quran. Therefore, you are not allowed to do this. You don't have to praise Allah or offer salutation upon the Prophet ﷺ. What happens if I do? During sujood, it's okay. It's a dua. But it is not part of the sunnah to do so because we were not directed to do so, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Nabil says, is it permissible to look anywhere during salat, or is it a must to look at the place of prostration? And is there any hadith of the Prophet regarding this? The scholars say that when the Prophet used to pray, alayhi salatu wasalam, his sight would not go beyond the prostration place. And the vast majority of scholars say that this is where you have to look when you are in the standing position. When in ruku', some scholars say, yes, you maintain looking at the place of prostration. And others say, no, you look between your legs so that your head would be leveled with your back. Because if you look at the place of prostration, you may need to raise your head a little bit because your eyesight cannot go or be tilted. And some say you look in between the prostration area and your feet. And this is where your head is looking comfortably in front of it. And it seems that it's all accepted. When sitting, you look at the place of prostration unless you are offering tashahhud. Because the authentic hadith said that when the Prophet used to sit and offer tashahhud, he would look at his index finger all the time. So when you're sitting, you just look at your index finger while wiggling it or shaking it in its place until you finish and offer salam, or you stand up for the following rak'ah. This is what the scholars say, and Allah knows best. Dhia or Zia says, can I do tawaf for other people as many times as I want after completing my umrah? The essence of our religion is based on following. What do we mean by that? We cannot innovate. We cannot invent things. We have to follow and comply to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So, when the Prophet says ﷺ, the prayer of a man in congregation is 27 times better than his prayer alone. What do we understand? We understand that prayer in congregation is far more rewardable. Okay, this is hadith. We put it a little bit on the side. The Prophet said ﷺ that if you maintain praying 12 rak'ahs per day and night other than the faridah, then Allah will build you a mansion in Jannah. And Abdullah ibn Umar and Habiba and Salama and Aisha and all the mothers of the believers told us that the Prophet used to pray 4 rak'ahs before dhuhr or 2 rak'ahs before dhuhr in the hadith of Ibn Umar, and 4 rak'ah in the hadith of the mothers of the believers, and 2 rak'ahs after. Okay? I said, okay. I could not agree more. Okay, what happens if I come in the masjid, I lead the congregation in 4 rak'ah of dhuhr, and after I finish the fard, offer salam, and they offer the salam, I say to them, brothers, let us now pray the sunnah 2 rak'ahs after dhuhr in congregation. استووا اعتدلوا أقيموا صفوفكم ولا تختلفوا. What is this? Hey, Sheikh, تعال, come. What are you doing? So I say, what do you think I'm doing? I'm praying congregation. I'm leading them in sunnah prayer. Say, yeah, but this is not permissible. So why? The Prophet said that the prayer in congregation is 25 to 27 times more rewarding than praying alone. So I'm praying the sunnah, which the Prophet always did, in congregation. What's wrong in that? I said, Sheikh, what's wrong is that the Prophet had never done it before. So you're mixing oranges with apples. Yes, congregational prayer is recommended for fard. This is what the Prophet used to pray, ﷺ. And for taraweeh, this is what the Prophet used to pray in congregation. But he never had prayed the voluntary sunnah, emphatic sunnah of the prayers in congregation. So what you're doing is an innovation. So now coming back to your question, what's the ruling on doing tawaf for others? Was it ever recommended or done by the Prophet ﷺ? Nope. Companions? Nope. Tabi'een? Nope. Tabi'it tabi'een? Nope. Then what was? We know that from authentic hadiths that you can perform Hajj badal. You can perform Hajj on behalf of others, deceased or living, providing that they are chronically ill and they're unable to perform their fard Hajj. This is permissible. We know that you can perform Umrah for the deceased without any problem, as long as you have performed your own Umrah before. But to do Tawaf, we refrain. You can do tawaf for yourself as many as you wish, but you cannot do it on behalf of the deceased or the living for any reason, none whatsoever. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Abu Sa'id Al-Khudri radiyallahu anh narrated that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, for every hardship, disease, worry, distress, harm and grief that a Muslim faces, and even for every thorn that pricks him, Allah will expiate some of their sins through it. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu said, I entered where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was, and I found him suffering pains of a fever. And I said, O Messenger of Allah, you are suffering severe pains of your fever. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, yes, I'm suffering as much as two men among you would suffer. I said to him, for that reason, will you have two rewards? He sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, yes, it will be as you said. There is not a Muslim that is afflicted with the harm of a thorn or any above that, except that because of it, Allah will expiate their sins, and his sins will fall like leaves fall off a tree.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back. Sana says, is it an innovation or mandated in Islam not to take a shower in the first days of menses? This is also a frequently asked question, and one is astonished. Where do people get such ideas from, such misconceptions? And this usually is attributed to hearsay, to what the old folk who have no knowledge usually chit-chat about. In Islam, we cannot accept whatever Tom, Dick, or Harry say without verifying it with the Quran and the Sunnah. And Ibn Sirin, may Allah have mercy on his soul, one of the great tabi'een, he used to say, Inna hadha al-ilma deenun. This knowledge that is delivered to you is religion. So verify and check who you are learning your religion from. You cannot come, for example, and watch a celebrity on TV or on YouTube or on a lecture that you don't know nothing of, and you learn from this celebrity knowledge about Iman, about Aqeedah, about things in religion, without verifying whether this person knows what he's talking about or not. So many of us are celebrities. We come on TV stations and we speak about the religion. You must verify and cross-examine whatever I say to check whether it is valid or not. How to check it? Go and check what Sheikh bin Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen says and cross-examine what I say complies with what they say or not. Do I support whatever I claim from the Quran and the Sunnah, or it's just from thin air and reasoning and logic? By logic, this is haram. By logic, this is halal. What logic? Iblis had a logic of his own when he rejected to prostrate to Adam. And he said, I'm better than him. Logically speaking, I was created of fire and he was created from clay. And fire is stronger and better and much more efficient than clay. So how do you want me to prostrate to him? He used his logic against the Sharia, against the command of Allah. And we know what happened. So whatever you hear from the layman, whatever they do when they see a piece of bread on the ground and people pick it up and they kiss it. What are you doing? We said we are respecting this ni'mah. There was a piece of bread on the ground and we're kissing it. Is that it? He said, no, we kiss it and we prostrate upon it 3 times. Where did you get this from? I don't know, but people are doing it, so we're doing it. A'udhu billah. This is an innovation. Sheikh, everything is an innovation for you guys. Akhi, it's not our guys or their guys, It's the Quran and the Sunnah. Just bring me one single hadith that the Prophet did this, alayhi salam. There were so many pieces of bread and dates and other stuff on the ground. Have you ever read a hadith that supports this? So nope. Then this is an innovation. And why prostrate on it? Why put it on your forehead? This is illogical. So when we come to such illogical things that do not comply with the Quran and the Sunnah, who prevents a woman in her menses in the beginning of the days from taking a shower? There's nothing wrong in cleaning her body and herself. Or do you want her to stink like a pig for 4 or 5 days so that you'll be happy because she complied with your nonsense? This is not part of Islam. Yeah, it might be part of other religions, but you're in the wrong show. We speak about Islam. So a woman in her menses, on day 1 till the last day, she can take shower a couple of times a day to keep herself clean and fresh without any problem in that. Munir says, if I marry more than one woman, and if one of them dies, who will I be in Jannah? And what about women? If she was married multiple times in this dunya, who will she be in Jannah? Well, first of all, if a man marries more than one wife and they die while he's alive, they will be with him in Jannah, inshallah. So your dead wife or wives, they will be with you in Jannah with the grace of Allah because you are their last husband. And likewise, if a woman marries a number of men and she is widowed every time she marries one of them, she would be, the most authentic opinion, with the last one of them. And there is another opinion saying that she would be with the best and most righteous one of them. But it seems, and Allah knows best, that she would be with the last one of them. For example, Asma bint Umays, may Allah be pleased with her. She was married to Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and the one with the 2 wings. When he was martyred in Uhud, she married Abu Bakr. And when Abu Bakr died, she married Ali ibn Abi Talib, her previously brother-in-law, the brother of Ja'far. So who will she be with on the Day of Judgment? The most authentic opinion that she would be with Ali, though Abu Bakr was more righteous and higher in rank than Ali, but because he was the last one and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Firdaus says, what should a woman do if she has to choose between obeying her parents or her husband? Well, in the beginning, before marriage, a woman is obliged to obey her parents. So your father has a priority over you, that you obey him as he is your guardian. But when a woman gets married, her guardian becomes her husband. And Allah Azza wa Jal ordered the women to obey their to obey their husbands. And Allah described men to be guardians by saying, الرجال قوامون على النساء. So Allah favored men over women. Because of that, they are guardians to be obeyed, and because of the money they provide for their wives, they must be obeyed. If we have a conflict of interest, a wife sitting in her husband's home, her father calls and says, I'd like you to come with me to such and such place. Or I want you to travel with me to such and such city. She asks her husband, and the husband says, no, I don't permit that, and I don't allow you to do that. So now she's at a crossroad. Should she obey her father while disobeying her husband? Or should she obey her husband and stay back while disobeying her father? There is no difference of opinion, to my knowledge, that she must obey her husband. Because the status of a husband over everyone else is so great, to the extent that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if I were to order someone to prostrate to another, I would have ordered a woman to prostrate to her husband. And he did not mention anything close as this regarding her father. So yes, she has to be dutiful to her father. She must be respectful and obedient, as long as it does not go against her husband's commands and instructions. But if it does, then her husband has the priority, and even if her father curses her, does not speak to her, boycotts her, she must make that clear to him and to her mother that she has no other choice but to obey her husband as Allah has commanded, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Halima says, if somebody has passed away and you go to pay your condolences, they offer you food that was sent to them from neighbors or other extended family members or friends. Should we eat or refrain from eating? The issue is not should we eat or refrain. The food is halal by itself. So the neighbors send to the family of the deceased food, biryani, curry, rice, whatever. The food itself is halal. The issue is, can we sit and eat or not? Sitting and eating, again, is halal, generally speaking. But in the hadith of Jarir ibn Abdullah al-Bajali, may Allah be pleased with him, he is a companion. He said that we, meaning the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, used to consider gathering for mourning and the preparation of food to the gathering part of wailing. Wailing is a major sin. When you start screaming and shouting and slapping your face and tearing your clothes and saying, oh my disease, oh my this, and you wail, this is a major sin. So the companions used to consider gathering for the mourning as an innovation. So when someone dies, we don't give our condolences. No, give your condolences, but don't gather. Where I come from, they allocate between Maghrib and Isha the time for accepting condolences. So outside of the house of deceased, they block the roads so no cars can come in or go out. And they put lights so the whole street is lit with light bulbs. And they put chairs in an organized fashion. And they put a row in front of that for the family of the deceased to sit. And those who want to give their condolences come between Maghrib and Isha, sit. Usually they give them coffee and tea. It's in the open. And some of them go the extra mile and they hire a qari who they pay money, and the guy sits on his bench and recites parts of the Quran with a microphone. Those who cannot afford it, they bring cassette player or a DVD player and they play the Quran. And every like 5 to 10 minutes there are intervals where they stop the Quran or the Qari stops. Those sitting stand up and go and give their condolences. Azam Allah ajrak. May Allah forgive the sins of your deceased, one by one, and they leave. This is an innovation by itself because this is a gathering. Usually, the family of the deceased says, listen, don't go. After Isha, we will put food and sheep and rice and we will eat dinner together. This is part of wailing, which is not permissible. So what is permissible, Sheikh? What is permissible in giving your condolences for men is that when you see them in the masjid, when you see them at work, when you see them in shops or in the market or in the streets, you give them your condolences. If they're close, you visit them. Not during this time, rather after Asr or after Isha. And you give your condolences and leave. Maybe sit 5 minutes, 4 minutes, depending on the environment in their houses as a normal guest, but not in such gatherings that are dedicated to mourning and to giving condolences. This is what is part of the Sunnah, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Nuha says, can we make wudu with oil on our hair? Is the wudu valid? We know that in order for your wudu to be valid is that your organs are washed and there is no layer between the water and your skin. So if I have a big paint spot on my hand and I perform wudu, my wudu is invalid because the paint is a layer that prevents water from going and reaching my skin. Likewise, if a woman has nail varnish or nail polish, this is a hard substance that prevents water from reaching your nails, whether it's breathable or non-breathable. This is all bogus. It prevents water from reaching your nails and your wudu is invalid. There is an exception of 2 things. One, of wiping over the socks, because the Sunnah permits that. So I did not wash my feet, rather I simply wiped over them in wudu. This is valid, providing that I wore the socks after performing ablution. So I am in the state of minor ritual purity. I'm in the state of wudu. I put them on. Now, next time I make wudu, I can wipe over them. And there are a number of other conditions. The other exception is wiping over the hair. Because wiping does not mean washing. It is a more simpler way of doing it. So we have authentic hadiths stating that the Prophet ﷺ, when he went for Umrah and for Hajj, he used to put a substance similar to glue on his hair. And this substance keeps the hair intact and fixed. He's traveling for a couple of weeks' time, so he definitely performed wudu, which means that wiping over this substance is okay and legit. Nowadays, we have hair gel to those who use it. I don't have hair to use it, so I don't know how it is implemented, but those who do, you see that their hair is so stiff and fixed, it cannot move. Even if they jump or fall, it's fixed. So such gel prevents water from reaching the hair, but you can wipe on that without any problem. When performing ghusl, this is not sufficient. You have to wash it off to ensure that the water reaches every single hair and your scalp as well. So if you have henna on your hair, you just applied henna and it has to stay for an hour or two so that the color sticks, and it's time for prayer with the henna on your head, there's no problem in wiping over it. If you have hair gel, there's no problem. If you have oil, it is also permissible, and Allah knows best. Shireen says, is there any dua to get married? I'm getting old, 28 years of age, and no proposal is being finalized. I feel really sad, not only for me, but also for my parents, as they are getting old and always worried about me. Shireen, people have different tests in this life. You have a test. Someone else may be tested with breast cancer. May Allah protect us all. Others may be tested in their security, where there are demonstrations and oppression from the government and killing and looting. In other countries, other people are tested by famine and drought. And in other countries, they're tested by poverty and being unable to find a good job. In other places, people are tested and oppressed due to their religion. They cannot go and pray. They cannot wear the hijab. Men cannot grow their beards. They're put in concentration camps, like the Nazis. They're oppressing them just simply because they say, my Lord is Allah. So we on this earth are created to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. And part of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be patient and tolerant to His testing. So Allah is testing us who will do well. Your test is in your marriage. Allah did not send you a good proposal yet. What to do? Do you believe in predestiny? I said, yes. So what will you do? Will you just sit idle and be depressed, or move on? Live your normal life like Allah told you to do. When it is predestined, it will come. And if it doesn't come, it is predestined, accept it. Your journey ends when you die, and this is going to happen in few decades, maybe less. So don't waste eternity over complaining about something that only Allah Azza wa Jal predestines and knows when it is best for you. Now, having said that, always look at the bright side. Look at the full half of the glass, of the cup, rather than looking at the empty half of the cup. It's the same cup, it's the same mug. Half of it is full, half of it is empty. Describe it. If you say it's half empty, then you're pessimistic. If you say it's half full, you're optimistic. Look at the bright side of the situation. You're not married. You're 28 years of age. Your parents are depressed because you're not married. Okay, this is scenario one. Scenario two, a good proposal comes, or you think it's good, you get married, you get pregnant, and you discover that he is an abusive person, he doesn't pray, he's a drug addict, and you did not know all of this. After a year or two of being tortured, you're divorced, you go back home with a kid or two to your parents. What is best? To have remained without a husband or to go through this calamity. Do you mean, Sheikh, that everyone who gets married will go through this? No. I mean that you have to think positive with the position you're in. Always be grateful to Allah. It could have been worse. So Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal. Make general dua. Always try to make dua at times of acceptance. When you're prostrating, make a lot of dua. Oh Allah, grant me a righteous and pious and rich husband. When before salam, the same. Between adhan and iqamah, 5 times a day, the same. When it rains, the same. When it is the last third of the night, the same. All of this is going your way, so you try your level best to make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whenever it is best for you, He will make this happen, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.